Thanks so much for being a part of this servant leader training session. In this session, we're taking time to get clear, to get clarity, so that our servant leader meetings and our servant leader function can be done in a really fruitful and effective way. And so in this session, we're going to look at clarity from the perspective of having clarity of vision. We're going to look at what it means to have clarity of purpose and how that then flows into having clarity of agenda. So we're going to cover these broad areas, and in a sense we're going from the 30,000 foot view as we look at vision and mission right down to a ground level view as we look at the details of what an effective agenda can look like. So let's start with vision and mission. And a good place to start is with some definitions, because sometimes it's easy to get confused about what's a vision and what's a mission and why should we have both. A vision is a picture of a preferred future that inspires action. If you like, it's our destination. And often it has the sense of being discerned and God-given, and something that as a church community we're striving towards. A mission, on the other hand, is a statement about what we exist to do. If the vision is our destination, the mission is our doing. It helps us to define what our activity will look like, and it helps us to reflect and measure our fruitfulness as a church community. Let's look at a couple of examples. So our first example is going to be the vision of our own church movement, the Wesleyan Methodist Church. And so as we do, I want you to have a couple of filters in mind. And you'll be able to use these filters as you think about your own vision, whether you have one or whether you're aspiring to have one. The first filter is a scriptural filter, Proverbs 29:18. In the Old King James Version it says, without a vision, the people will perish. And I think we have a sense of this, that without a focus, without a sense of what we're shooting for, our communities tend towards death and destruction more than they will towards advancement and fruitfulness. So there's some truth in this idea that without vision, people perish. But if we look at the NIV translation of the same verse, we get a slightly different nuance. In the NIV it says, without revelation, the people cast off restraint. So here we have a picture that without God-given revelation, there's a sense in which anything goes. We cast off restraint. Any good idea is a good idea, and people will find themselves often running around in all kinds of directions without the level of focus they might want. The second filter looks to move on from Proverbs 29:18, which directs our attention to vision as being something that is revealed, something that is revelation, to look not just at the activity of God in that moment of revelation, but also in the way that God has worked in the past, the way He's working in the present, and where we're feeling called to in the future. When we think about the past, we're thinking about those aspects of tradition and culture, and where we have seen God act, things that have become a part of who we are because of our heritage. These might be customs or rhythms or even theology. In the Wesleyan Methodist Church, we're a holiness church. That's a part of who God has shaped us to be in the past. We're a part of a revival movement that John Wesley instigated and which we've seen break out in other points in history. These are parts of who we are. We also look at what God might be doing in the present. What is God blessing right now? What do we see? Where are we seeing God moving? What fruitfulness has He allowed in our midst? These can be sources of vision. And as we look forward, this might be where some of the more discerned, prophetic parts of our reflection come from. But we also might look at our community, both our church community, and we might also look at sources of information about the communities in which we live. What are the needs of those communities? Not only how might God be animating us, but how might the needs of others be animating us? These are all things that can flow into our discernment of vision. So with those thoughts in mind, let's have a look at the Wesleyan vision, and you might see how some of those ideas resonate in this vision. So our vision as a church, a whole church community across Aotearoa, is that we would see transformed people, churches, and communities overflowing with the grace and the holiness of Jesus Christ. So this is a picture of the future, which sees transformation happening in individual lives, in our churches, and in the communities in which we exist. It's a picture of transformation that happens because of the overflow of God in our midst, His grace and His holiness. That's our destination. That's what we hope to see. And when we see that happening in our church, we can celebrate it. We can point it out and say, this is our vision in action, our vision with flesh on. Let's look at our mission in the Wesley Methodist Church. Remember, our mission is our doing rather than our destination. It's our reason for existing. It's the way in which we can measure our activity and look for our fruitfulness. And in the Wesleyan Church, we have 3 key words. We will reach, we will grow, and we will serve. There's some detail on that. The detail of our mission is that together we will reach people with Christ, grow disciples in Christ, and serve communities through Christ. So that's our mission. That's our reason for being. That's our purpose. And we can look to celebrate and to be accountable for our fruitfulness in each of those areas. So the second part of achieving clarity is for us to take the clarity that we have around our vision and mission and to begin to flow that clarity out in purpose and planning. And so in the church, often we get confused between the idea of discernment and following the Lord's leading, and then what sometimes is seen as the more worldly sides of planning and preparation. And the truth is they belong together. It's why as a servant leaders, we talk about the role of servant leaders as being for spiritual oversight and discernment on the one hand, and strategic governance on the other. Bringing these 2 areas together and not having one dominate, but having them both breathe together. And so we are really encouraging of our churches to develop a vision plan, a plan that puts legs on the vision and mission that you believe that God has given you. And we would encourage you to have a planning horizon of 3 to 5 years on that vision plan. And as part of that rhythm, we would be encouraging you to do annual reviews so that as you approach the new calendar year, you're able to say, our vision calls us towards this picture. Our mission requires this activity of us. We have a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that we hope to see these things achieved. Next year, the activity that we will do in pursuit of that is this. And so we provide resources and encourage this annual reflection on how has God allowed fruitfulness in our midst? How is God continuing to lead us and shape us? What do we discern might be our direction next year? And so as part of that, we would encourage you to spend time in prayer, to allow the prophetic to be birthed in your midst, to make sure there are circles of community reflection so that you can get a real sense of what the Spirit is saying to the church collectively. But at the same time, to pay attention to the measures of fruitfulness in your midst. How many people have come to Christ this year? How does that compare to last year? What's your aspiration? How many people would you like to see to come to Christ? How many people are joining small groups? What's happening on Sundays in terms of new people, existing congregation? Are people engaged and showing up, or is it less consistent than that? These numbers are not the whole story, but they tell part of the story. So looking in and asking questions about where is evidence of God's fruitfulness in our midst is a really good way of being faithful. Secondly, the opportunity is to look into our community and to look at what the demographics tell us in the community, particularly changes where we might want to respond to some current needs. So we have resources as a national movement. You can grab our CHAMP materials, which is Church Health Annual Mission Plan, a way of focusing activity for the coming year. And our recommendation is that you start that process as early in the year as August, that you begin that process of beginning to think about and pray about what God is revealing through your prayer and discernment, but what He's also revealing in the numbers. And that as you move towards November, you begin to have in place something of a plan that will define your activity in the coming year. Many churches wait till February to begin this process. And the reality is that the planning process is not completed by Easter. A third of the year is gone, and while it's good stuff, how much better to start the year with real clarity amongst you and your team. There's also a resource called HCAT, which is a resource that allows you as a whole church, leaders and congregation, to reflect on your lived experience of God's fruitfulness in your midst as measured against the 7 healthy church characteristics that we recommend you pay attention to, pray into, and plan into. So those resources are available through our website, or you can contact our national team for more assistance on locating those.